Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stephenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our mission is simple yet profound, and it's to help you live your best audacious life ever. We believe that each day is an opportunity to embrace your true potential and step boldly into who you're meant to be. It's always a pleasure to be here with you, and I truly appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us on our journey of inspiration and growth. Now, imagine trying to navigate through a dense forest, armed with only a compass that points to where you think you should go, rather than following the natural path that unfolds before you. This is much like the process of overcoming overthinking and the urge to control every situation. Jeaneen Tang's insights in her book, Play Dumb and Sabotage, serve as a guiding light through that forest, encouraging individuals to let go of the fear of uncertainty, instead anticipating a child's needs and trying to control their environment. She suggests we allow them to express themselves, fostering their autonomy and decision-making. By encouraging children to communicate their needs, we clear the path for authentic interaction and growth, just as one would follow the natural trails instead of forcing a direction. And we're so happy to have Jeaneen Tang join us. She's a passionate speech and language pathologist with over 23 years of experience in the field. Jeaneen's journey into speech therapy was inspired by her desire to help others stemming from her childhood experiences. She's dedicated her career to working with children and families, focusing on fostering language development through engaging and playful strategies. She's also the author of the book Play Dumb and Sabotage, which provides caregivers with essential tools to enhance communication as well as connection with their children. Jeaneen is incredibly relevant to today's episode as we delve into the critical topic of fostering language development and communication in our children. Her expertise and unique perspective on the allowing children to express their needs rather than anticipating them is not only transformative, but essential for every caregiver seeking to support their child's growth. So now that we've got you all set, let's turn to our conversation with Jeaneen. Enjoy. Greetings, Jeaneen. Thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you for making time to be here. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I know that this is great to engage in dialogues that really can provide me of assistance to others. Not the part that gets me excited, right? Because to know that potentially someone could be eavesdropping in our conversation and walk away with something that they can use in their own lives to help them get to a better place is just a really, really thrilling thing to be a part of. And so it's always great to sit down and chat with individuals like this. So I thank you for doing this. Much time we spent on this podcast is really encouraging individuals to live their best audacious lives, and that takes shape and has different forms for different people depending on what it is, and because we're not all on that same path, right? We've got different roads that we go down, and different ways of getting to this place of greatness. And so that's really the crux of what we do here, and individuals like yourselves that have really neat stories that they can share and provide insight to others is a fabulous thing. As a speech and language pathologist, you've got some really neat perspectives on the challenges of life and being able to navigate that and then be able to overcome and then be able to help others. And so maybe as a starting point, I would invite you into the conversation and ask you to introduce yourself to the audience and to tell them the work you do and kind of what you've been doing to get you to the point that you're at now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me again. I've been a speech language pathologist since 2001, so it's over 23 years now. And I love my job. Like, I absolutely love it. And, I don't think I would have fallen into the job if I had not, had the background that I had. My grandfather, when I was 8 years old, he was sick and he ended up dying of lung cancer. And so I really had this need to want to help people because I was 8 years old at the time and I felt very helpless. And so I had this need to help people. And along the way, I found some really great mentors. I wanted to be a teacher at one point, and I thought maybe I want to be a physical therapist at one point. And then when it came time to go to grad school, I was like, I don't know exactly what I want to do. And someone said, have you thought about speech therapy? And I was like, what is that? And I had done my undergraduate work in English literature and creative writing, and it kind of, fell into this great path of language and communication for speech language pathology. And I love it. It's a great opportunity to work with children and adults. I love working with all populations. And so I'm originally from Hawaii, Honolulu, Hawaii, and I
Okay.
moved to Los Angeles in 2005 to do acting. And, there are many actors that come to Los Angeles, and it's not an easy path to go down. And I'm very glad that I was already a speech therapist, because I could work part-time as a speech therapist and make the same amount of money as working, you know, time and a half for waitressing. I was working like
Right.
50 hours a week waitressing, but I could work 30 hours a week doing speech therapy. And I'm glad I had speech therapy, because acting is hard. And even though I can do, some acting jobs every now and then, speech therapy is my main job, and it's a passion that I have. And when I had my son in 2012, I was really happy that I was a speech therapist, because unfortunately, when he was 13 months old, he had a brain injury and stroke. And I could be there as his mom and as a speech
Hmm.
therapist to help him, navigate whatever obstacles he needed to navigate. And now he's 12, and, he's in middle school, and, it's every day is speech therapy. And hopefully from this point on, I can help not only him, but other families and kids and parents, especially, in how to help their young children and how to develop.
It seems like you chose the perfect line of work to be able to be there to support your son.
Yeah, I really believe in fate in some ways.
Hmm.
I feel like the universe aligns certain things, and by no means do I say he should have had that accident or whatever. But since he had that accident, I think the universe already aligned me to be the best person I could be in order to help him.
Wow. Okay. I'd love to hear. I know you some of the material I was reading, it talks about you want to shake up the approach to language and speech development. I wonder if we could expand on that further. Like, what are you seeing as the gaps or the marks that were being missed, and how can we fix those?
Absolutely. So, I've been working with early intervention speech therapy for many, many years
Hmm.
now. And what I've seen is that there are a lot of kids who need speech therapy that are late talkers, but otherwise they seem perfectly normal developing. Physically, they're fine. Intellectually, they appear fine. They understand everything. They just are late talkers.
Hmm.
And I think that those kids definitely could have been prevented from having speech therapy if their parents and caregivers and early educators were just trained a little bit better on how to, uh, you know, um, present language and use language strategies to promote language development. And I think that if we could do that, it's almost like preventative speech therapy, right?
Gotcha.
Want to preventative health, preventative speech therapy. If you
Hmm.
could teach these people how to do these things early on before there is an actual need, then you would definitely, I would think, see a decrease in the number of children that need speech therapy overall.
Right. And it's interesting because you start talking about those the late talkers. Not a lot of people are just late talkers, and so I think the approach at that stage is give them some time, right? And we're all different. We're all the different stages, and we develop differently. So the idea is just give them some time. But it would appear that that time that we're spent giving them could have been better spent with using some strategies that you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there are people who are late talkers, like legitimately, like people are like, oh, I didn't talk till I was 5. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's very late. But why weren't they talking at that age? My book is called Play Dumb and Sabotage, right? And it's about how parents are over anticipating a child's needs. Right? We want to be really good parents, we want to be really good caregivers, teachers, whatever it is, dealing with children. You want to be able to show that you understand what they might need or want, and over anticipate those needs and wants and provide them, right? But in
Hmm.
actuality, we're doing too much for a lot of children. And by letting the child engage with their environment naturally, and by having to ask or indicate that they need or want something, that's the natural communication that needs to happen, rather than, I know you love this toy, so I'm going to give this to you. And I
Right.
know you love this food, so I'm going to give you all this snack. I know you need, you're going to wear this clothes and you're going to do all these things. You're going to do this stuff for your child. And that's a good parent, because you need to know what your child might need or want. But in
Mhm.
actuality, you want to interact naturally in your child's environment. Say like, hey, before your child can even talk, you know, do you want to wear the green shirt or the blue shirt? And hold it up so they can see
Mhm.
what the vocabulary is. They can make a choice even by looking, right? Rather than, oh, I want to wear the blue shirt. They might just look at the blue shirt and be like, oh, blue, I love blue. Let's wear the blue
Right.
shirt today.
Right.
So they're interacting with their environment naturally, because they're making a choice, whether it's by gazing at whatever the item is, by reaching for it, by hopefully developing the words to say blue or
Mhm.
green, whatever it is. That's going to be helpful for the child, because not only are they hearing new vocabulary, they are interacting with you, right? It
Right.
needs to be this conversational exchange, whether it's nonverbal or verbal, right? And a simple thing for snack time, especially, I tell parents, if you're going to give a child Cheerios or goldfish or whatever it is, don't give them the whole bowl. Just give them a couple pieces. And that way they can indicate that they want more. And you can work on, before they can even talk, you can work on simple signs. There's universal simple signs people know, like for more and things, and hopefully that will develop into, words and then sentences
Yeah,
later on.
yeah, yeah. And I like again even the giving the options like so sure the red or blue, because even if the language isn't there, you're patterning it, right? You're starting to do something that will stimulate it. So if they happen to gaze and they're gazing at the blue one, it's like, okay, blue shirt. So you label that for them. So it'll eventually, at least because you're pointing in that direction is where I'm going. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. You give them those options, they have this interaction that they kind of feel like they are making a decision, right? And then you're giving them the vocabulary. So even if they can't speak, you're going to model what you feel that what they might be saying at that time, right? So you're going to be giving them those words, modeling it for them, and hopefully they will start to imitate those things as well.
So let's talk about the book. Play Dumb and Sabotage. I think that's a very creative title. I want to sort of give the meaning behind that.
Yeah, so it's literally because play dumb, we over anticipate. So play dumb means to mindfully under anticipate. And I think that's a harder skill for anybody to have, right? Because you
Hmm.
can you can anticipate something, but it's almost harder to anticipate it and then be like, okay, I'm going to wait and mindfully under anticipate. So you want to mindfully under anticipate the child's needs. And the sabotage part, it's not destructive at all. It's very much like creating opportunities to practice language. So it's a practice part of it. So in snack time, giving just a couple pieces of the snack rather than the whole bowl.
Right.
You might have a favorite toy in sight, but just out of reach. So they need to indicate that they want it rather than a free for all, right? A lot of parents will just be like, here's your toys right in front of you. You don't need
Right.
to ask for
Go
them.
go
You
go
don't
nuts. Go nuts. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's like a free for all. So it's like that sabotage part, and it's practice, because if even like when you're playing a sport like basketball or soccer, if you're going to score a goal, you're going to kick at that goal many, many times to practice. Or shooting a free throw, you're going to shoot a free throw many, many times, not just every so often.
Right.
So that sabotage is really a practice for the caregiver, parent, or educator to practice with the child, and the child gets that repetition in as well. So both people, both parties need to practice, because it is, once you start to practice it, it becomes second nature, becomes a
Yes.
habit. This
Yes.
conversation, it's, at first it might seem, it's very, very difficult, or like, how am I going to do this all the time? But after a while, it's like it becomes second nature, and it really becomes natural. And, even to this day, my son will be like, Mom, and he'll hand me his water bottle. And I'm like, that's a water bottle. Hmm. He's like, Mom. I was like, did you need something? Mom, may I please have more water? So it's even at 12. I'm like, I feel like he's digressed in his language as he's becoming a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's that natural back and forth, right? And then another interpretation of play dumb is kids love being smarter than adults, right?
Yes, they do.
They do. So, and it helps with engagement when you are dumber than they are or you're playing dumb. So, if I'm playing with toy animals or I'm looking at a book with animals with a kid, I might point to a dog and say, "Oh, does a dog say Baba?" And they look at me like, "What? That's crazy." Or, I was like, "Oh, look, there's a hat. Should I eat it?" Then they're like,
Mm,
that's not what you do with it. So asking absurd questions, asking absurd yes and no questions, is really helpful with building rapport and
yes.
engagement with the children because it's fun, it's play.
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
lot of
Yes.
play and it's a lot of, them feeling like they are really a part of the conversation and
Yeah.
interaction,
Yeah.
right?
I think this is the conversation of language, or language development, fits in beautifully overall to what we talk about here, particularly because language is so important for our everyday existence, right? Quite frankly is. And in a lot of instances, it's kind of the backbone of any kind of true success, because we don't do anything on our own by ourselves. It's through communication and language, and how we connect with other people, and and language sort of bridges that gap. And so to be able to help children develop the language, develop the skills, to develop the tools that they're able to use, I think it's just a wonderful springboard to do all kinds of audacious things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, was the goal to be a writer, like, or what made you decide to go out and write your own book?
Well, I wanted to create a greater impact, right? Because as a person, you're like, how can I help my community or my world better, right? And I'm just one person. So I thought maybe I wanted to get a doctorate and teach at a university. But I was like, well, I'd only be teaching other speech therapists, a very finite number of people at a time. So I wanted to be able to reach a mass number of people. And I thought, if I could write my thoughts and my strategies in a book,
Right.
that is able to be replicated and be read. And my book is written in a very conversational way. It's not a textbook. It's super easy to read. There's a lot of like stories and narratives, and at the end of every chapter there's exercises. So it's a very interactive book. So I figured if I could do that and make it accessible to everybody and easy for people to digest,
Hmm.
that's a better way for me to create a bigger reach, worldwide even,
Right.
right? So
Gotcha.
it's in a paperback, it's in a hard, a printed book, sorry, I should say. It's an ebook and an audiobook. So it's like how many ways can people digest information and making it accessible for everyone? I think that's the biggest goal because I think, you know, as one person, your goal is to better the world in the best way you can.
Right, right, and you're certainly doing that. And again, as I talked earlier, language is just a wonderful vehicle for all sorts of great things to come out of that. And so I think it's a fantastic venture and direction that you're heading down. I wonder if you sort of give a sense generally of sort of the number of kids, or the I guess the impact of children that requires speech or language, or there's an issue. Because again, we talked earlier, there's so many late talkers out there who maybe they don't necessarily have a speech and language issue, but certainly could benefit, as you pointed out, from early interventions.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number of children that need speech therapy or are getting speech therapy, but I find that almost every child can benefit from these strategies, whether they have a disability or not, right? So parents, especially new parents who know nothing, right,
Hmm.
go to these birthing classes to have a child, but then we don't go to language development classes. So when you have this child and you're taking care of the child, but then you don't learn how to interact naturally with that child. And so I think that the strategies in the book could be applied to anybody who has to interact with children. So I think even if a child does have a disability, right? So I work with a lot of children with autism and
Hmm.
other disabilities, and these simple strategies are also things I apply with them. So it's a very universal set of strategies that you can use with every child.
Yeah.
And I had one family who their oldest daughter is now 4, and when she started speech therapy at age 2, she really had almost no words, but she was very well behaved.
Hmm.
She knew exactly what the parents wanted, and she would follow directions, and she would never really cry or whine or get upset so much. She was just a really good child. She just was a late talker. And when we started working together and she started speaking and using words and then sentences, her mom was like, "Oh, I did not realize when she was a baby that I needed to interact with her so much." They thought that because she wasn't a whiny child, she wasn't colicky, she was fine, she was quiet. So as long as she was fed and warm and, dry, then that
Yes.
was good parenting. And in
Right.
a way
Right.
that is, right? Because you want your child to be
Absolutely.
comfortable. But in a way, they did not realize that if they were talking with their child, singing with their child, interacting, doing, lots of play with their child when they were little, it could have really benefited that child before they were age 2 and needed speech therapy at that time.
Right, right, right. Is that so? I'm thinking if if there's a parent that's listening in to our conversation, and we would look to share a couple things that they could do with their child right now. Is a play thing a big one that they could do, or is others that you'd suggest or recommend?
I would definitely play, make pretend, become that child, become a young person yourself, because as adults we forget how to play, or
Mhm.
we lose our
Yeah,
imagination, right? And for a child, imagination is real. And so I love when parents are able to sing nursery rhymes with their kids, because it incorporates music, which is on the right side of the brain, and language, which is on the left side of the brain. And oftentimes those nursery rhymes will incorporate, you know, physical movements as well. It's like
right.
itsy bitsy spider or the wheels on the bus. So they can also see what those melodic tones might be in a rhythm, being shown in a rhythm through physical movement.
Hmm.
The words are also said in a rhythmic pattern as well. And
Right.
that helps to reinforce things, because when we think about our favorite song in high school, we can probably remember a lot of the lyrics, right? But if you think about, okay, I had to give a speech in my college class, what was the first paragraph, or what was the first word? What was it about at all?
Sure. Yeah.
I
Right.
remember. So things that are incorporated with music are often, they are more concrete in our minds because
Yeah.
it incorporates both sides of our brain.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love that. I think that's again something quick and easy that parents can do, regardless if you think your child, has a speech and language issue or not. I think based on what we've talked about earlier, it's a good practice to get into because it reinforces in some instances, or it models the behavior that the wording at least that you want your child to work towards. And so I think any kind of plays. I mean, plays is a lot of fun, anyways, too, right? But I mean, any of those things. It sounds like they'd be fantastic to start as a parent.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And any other ones, just out of curiosity?
Um, I think that one of the big things in my book is, well, a couple things. Excuse me. One thing that's very helpful for parents and teachers, especially, is don't ask a yes no question unless you're ready to honor the no. So in that case, when we often ask children, are you ready to clean up? Are you ready to go to bed? Are you ready to do your work? And if a kid says no, then what are you going to do? Right? Oftentimes they'd be like, oh no, you're still going to do it. Or can you pick that off the ground? Can you put this away? We're asking these yes no questions rather than giving them a directive or
Hmm.
giving them a choice. So, even with my son, I'm like, hey, we got to cut your nails. Do you want to do it today or tomorrow? We're gonna go to bed now. Do you want to brush your teeth first or put pajamas on first? So I give them these choices so they feel like they are making some decisions. I'm also
Yep.
giving them vocabulary, right?
Right.
And so for kids, when I'm working with them in a session, I'll be like, oh, I have a book and a puzzle. Which one do you want to do first? So they see that, oh, we're going to do a couple things, and I get to choose which one we're going to do
Mm,
first. Yeah.
another good one.
Or yeah, or if we are doing like a puzzle and we take all the pieces out and they're asking for the puzzle pieces, I might say, oh, do you want the dog or the sheep? And then you kind of give them those choices. And that relates to, so that all these choices that we're giving them relates not only to giving them vocabulary, but giving them the autonomy to make these decisions. So
Right.
that's really good. And then one thing that I tell parents, and I've only had a person gasp one time, was, no child's ever died of crying, as far as we know. And only one parent has gasped when I've told them that, because we don't want our children to cry. We don't want them to be sad,
Right. Right.
uncomfortable, and everything, but we do need to stretch their abilities, right? So we need to understand that by giving in to if they're crying, if you are pacifying them by giving them, a lollipop, or giving them something
Right.
to eat, or giving them exactly what they want in that moment, that's actually a detriment for the child. And you're actually shifting the communication and control to the child, because the child is then in control of the situation rather than you are the teacher. And I think the parent needs to be a little bit more stubborn and
Right.
hold out a little bit more, because they are actually the parent and they should be the one that should be teaching the child. So, I would never ask a child if the child cannot crawl, I would not ask them to run. And I
Sure.
would not ask a child who's not talking to speak in sentences. But I might ask a child who is babbling to imitate certain sounds, like either animal sounds or vehicle sounds. I might ask a child that's able to say single words to try and imitate two words.
Gotcha.
So you have the stretching of abilities. And when a child is able to do a task, but they just don't want to do it because they just don't want to work, we can't just give in and say, well, here you go, you can have this toy, even though
Gotcha.
you didn't ask for it, but I know you can do it. So I think parents need to understand that it's okay for a child to cry, and that's one of
Yeah.
their communications, right? Their
Hmm.
communication systems is to cry, because that's how they indicate that they are uncomfortable or they
Yeah.
are in need of something. And once they start to talk, then you can stretch that ability. And the crying part is okay. And I've let, a child cry or whine, and just being very patient and letting them know that when they're ready, we can continue with the task. But oftentimes a child will cry and the parent gives in, and then they wonder why there's this behavior issue that the child has when they go to school, because now the child's not listening to the teacher, and so on and so forth.
I love it, and again, I like the idea of use like language is the extension of the crying, right? So because they use language, crying at a young age, they learn to cry to communicate some sort of need or signal something, and now the addition of language is really expanding. So you're constantly teaching them there's more that can be done, and I think that's a fabulous way of doing so. Jeaneen, this has been a delightful conversation. For listeners that wanted to learn more about you, or pick up a copy of Play Dumb and Sabotage, where could we send them?
Oh, they can definitely go to my website. It's playdumbandsabotage.com. They can download a free PDF that kind of summarizes some of the highlights of the book, as well as join my email list. And, links for the book and my social media are on there.
Gotcha, gotcha. And what we'll do is we'll ensure that we have the appropriate contact details in the show notes as well, so listeners can access that. Again, Jeanine, this has been a delightful conversation, a really really insightful. Again, the strategies that you're using to help people communicate really to the best of their ability is a fabulous and wonderful thing. And again, to talk about living an audacious life, I mean, language is such a key aspect of that. And so I appreciate you and all the the work you've done, and thank you for being a guest today here on the Audacious Living Podcast.
Thank you so much.
Back, we are here on the podcast, and during our chat with Jeaneen, she emphasized the importance of play and mindful engagement in language development. One of the key takeaways is her advocacy for giving children autonomy in decision making. She encourages caregivers to embrace moments of uncertainty, allowing children to cry or express discomfort as a valid form of communication. This approach not only empowers children, but also fosters genuine interaction. What I personally loved about the interview with Jeaneen was her refreshing perspective on playing dumb to foster communication. It really is a simple yet profound reminder that sometimes stepping back and allowing a child to take the lead can create an environment where they can feel safe to express themselves. This shift from control to connection is incredibly powerful. And I would encourage you to connect with Jean directly to explore her insights further. Of course, you can find her at playdumandsabotage.com, where you can also download her free PDF summarizing highlights from her book. Additionally, her links to her social media channels are available so you can stay connected and updated on her work. It really is a wonderful job that she's doing. She actually has a special offer on her website where you can download the free PDF that outlines some of her key strategies from her book. And again, it's Play Dumb and Sabotage. It truly is a fantastic resource for anyone looking to enhance their interaction with children. As a father of a child who's on the autism spectrum, we spend a lot of time as parents, working through that world of speech therapy and pathologists, and really trying to, give our daughter the best, possible advantage we could. And so much of what Jeaneen talks about resonates big time with me personally. And I want to thank her for her work in this field. I want to thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Audacious Living Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, I'd encourage you to like, follow, subscribe, or share this podcast with your friends and family. If you haven't already done so, your support helps us grow and continue to bring inspiring conversations that encourage you to live audaciously. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stephenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.